Hoy vamos a hablar sobre el tiempo futuro. Today we are going to talk about the future tense. The basic future tense is a very easy tense to conjugate. How do you conjugate the Spanish future tense? Well, you use the infinitive of the verb. It doesn't matter if the verb ends in ar or it ends in er or it ends in ir. You use the infinitive and you add the following endings, which if you notice, they're all accented, okay, except for the nosotros person, okay. For example, we have the verb tomar, okay, so you leave it like that, tomar, which is the infinitive form of the verb, and you add the endings. Tomaré, tomarás, tomará, tomaremos, no accent, tomaréis, tomarán. The same with comer, you just keep the verb in the infinitive and you add the endings, okay? Comeré, comerás, comerá, comeremos, comeréis, comerán. And remember the stress in the pronunciation is in the last syllable, okay? Except for nosotros comeremos, okay? And finally, we have a verb like vivir that ends in ir, and it is conjugated in the same way. You have the infinitive, and you add the endings. Viviré, vivirás, vivirá, viviremos, viviréis, vivirán. Now, as always in Spanish, we have irregular verbs. Irregular verbs are verbs that when you conjugate them in the future, there is a change in the stem of the verb. In this case, we have decir. If we were going to follow the rule, we will say, oh, deciré, decirás. But no, because this is an irregular verb. And an irregular verb is kind of different, okay? And the stem of the verb changes, okay? As you can see here, okay? It changes to dir, and then you add the endings. And then you add the endings, okay? Diré, dirás, dirá, diremos, diréis, y dirán. Now, there are many irregular verbs in the future in Spanish. These are some of the most common, like hacer, haber, poder. Okay, in the case of poder, you conjugate it like podré, podrás, podrá. In the case of salir, you will conjugate it saldré, saldrás, saldrá. Remember also that we can use the future tense in Spanish to express willingness to do something, for someone. In English, we use the future tense, but in Spanish, no, we could use a verb like querer, or we could use the simple present. like, ¿quieres ayudarme con el reciclaje? Okay, the translation in English will be, will you help me with the recycling? ¿Me traes el informe sobre la planta nuclear? Will you bring me the report on the nuclear plant? Okay, actually, we're not talking about, well, yes, in a way is future tense, but what you're asking is, are you willing to do this for me? And in Spanish, you use the present tense, and in English, use the future tense. Okay, another use of the future tense in Spanish is to express probability or to guess something. For example, you're wondering where you left your USB stick. Okay, I wonder where the memory stick might be. Okay, but in Spanish, you use the future tense. ¿Dónde estará la memoria USB? ¿Dónde estará la memoria USB? In English, you may say, it is probably in my backpack. But in Spanish, you will say, ¿estará en tu mochila? ¿Estará en tu mochila? Okay, in English, you probably will say, I wonder what time is it? In Spanish, you will use the future tense. You will say, ¿qué hora será? Okay. In English, you will say, it is probably 6 o'clock. In Spanish, you will use the future tense and you will say, serán las 6. Okay. En inglés usamos, in English we use expressions like probably, can, may, wonder, but in Spanish we use the future tense. Okay, also remember that in Spanish we sometimes can use the present, the simple present of the indicative to express the future. It's an immediate future, but it's the future. Mañana reciclamos los envases. Okay, termino mi trabajo esta tarde. Okay, tomorrow I will recycle, let's say, the bottles. I will finish my work this afternoon. In English, you will use the future. In Spanish, you use the present, the simple present of the indicative. And also remember that in Spanish, you can use the combination of ir, a, and the infinitive to express future tense. Voy a consumir menos energía, which means the same thing as consumiré menos energía. Both are future tenses, okay? But ir and the infinitive is like a sort of informal way of using the future. The actual future tense is the one we study in this PowerPoint. Vas a tirar los envases en el basurero. Okay, are you going to throw the bottles in the garbage? Okay. Well, you can also say in Spanish, tiraré los envases en el basurero. And you're saying the same thing. You're using the future tense, but you're using the formal future tense. Okay? If you have any question, guys, just email me, send me an email, or post a question below this link. Okay?